So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Rotarians and guests. Thank you for choosing to spend your Saturday afternoon with us. In conjunction with World Kidney Day 2021, the Rotary Club of Melawati, District 3300, and Malaysian Society of Nephrology present this one-hour webinar with updates and insights shared by experts in nephrology and kidney transplant program. Our club president will also share his journey as an ESRD patient, and we hope his story could be a source of inspiration for other patients and those around them. Now, in 2019, prevalence of chronic kidney disease in Malaysia is 9.07% of the total population, of which 0.36% are at stage 5 CKD or end-stage renal disease. Now, public-private partnership has improved accessibility of renal replacement therapies, especially dialysis in Malaysia, but the economic burden in terms of the financing mechanism, which is predominantly provided by the public sector, has never been quantified and remains significant. And in Malaysia, Rotary was hands-on the establishment of the National Kidney Foundation. In Klang, the Hemodialysis Association Klang has been providing affordable dialysis treatment for end-stage kidney failure patients in and around Klang since 1996. Now, this is a non-profit community service project sponsored by the Rotary Club of Klang. In Johor, the Rotary Club of Johor Bahru Hemodialysis Center was established earlier in 1992. And this afternoon, we have Dr. Sunita Bhavanandan, consultant nephrologist and head of nephrology department, Hospital Kuala Lumpur. We have Professor Dr. Halim Ghafoor, consultant nephrologist from PPUKM, and the president of Malaysian Society of Nephrology.
The bathroom.
We also have Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Abdul Hafiz, the head of nephrology unit and kidney transplant program, UITM, and our own president, Siva Kumar Raghavan, who is an ESRD patient. And to moderate the session, we have past Assistant Governor Dr. Selva Kumar Sivapunyam from the Rotary Club of Melawati. Now, before we start our session, let me just give a quick roundup on the house rules. Since this is also a platform for networking, please have your name and the club or organization you are from clearly visible. We also hope you could turn your camera on, and to ensure focus during the session, everyone will be muted except those who are presenting. You may use the chat box to post your questions, or you may ask them directly yourself later. Now, without further ado, I now hand over the session to our moderator. Over to you, Dr. Silva.
Thank you, Yasmin. Good afternoon and warm welcome to everyone. I think this is the first time we are doing such a program. And as we know, the World Kidney Day falls on the second Thursday of March every year. This year was 11th March, and we did a virtual opening by Ministry of Health. And then the idea came to me that why can't Rotary do it? So within the month of March, we decided on the 27th of March, 2021, we will do a Rotary-led event on World Kidney Day. The theme this year, Living Well with Kidney Disease. And I call up a few of my friends from the ministry and the universities to help me out become the speakers. I thank them very much. So without further ado, I would like to call upon the first speaker, my good friend, Dr. Sunita Bhavanandan. She is the Senior Consultant Nephrologist and Head of Department of Nephrology at Hospital Kuala Lumpur. She has vast experience in dealing with patients with chronic kidney disease, dialysis, mainly peritoneal dialysis, and also renal transplant. She has many publications, and one of her latest publications was on cost and economic burden of kidney disease. Right, Dr. Sunita? Yes.
Yes, sort of.
Yeah. Sorry, I just so anyway, so with that, Her topic is chronic kidney disease, cost and economic burden in Malaysia. This is a topic for non-medical people, and I hope everyone here will enjoy her talk and take a message. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sunita. Your floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Dr. Selva, and good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the Rotary Club of Melawati for the kind invitation to share a little bit with you about chronic kidney disease in terms of the cost and economic burden in Malaysia. So this is the outline of my talk today. I thought I would just give you a very brief introduction as to chronic kidney disease and what it's all about, and then talk about the epidemiology of chronic kidney disease, or CKD for short, in Malaysia, and before we focus on the cost and economic burden of CKD. So chronic kidney disease is something which is common, harmful, and treatable. And this is actually the key message that World Kidney Day has been using since the start of World Kidney Day, actually in 2016. Chronic kidney disease basically is something which occurs when a disease process, whether it's something like diabetes or hypertension, or even a stone in the kidneys or inflammation such as glomerulonephritis, damages the structure and or the function of the kidneys. And CKD is a harmful thing because it's associated with a 10 times increased burden of cardiovascular disease in the form of an increased risk of cardiovascular morbidity and often premature death. And in addition, it can proceed to end-stage kidney disease. So that means the patient will eventually require renal replacement therapy, whether that's in the form of dialysis or transplantation. So how common is CKD in Malaysia? Well, we have two large population-based studies which looked at the prevalence of chronic kidney disease. The first one was done in the year 2011, which Yasmin referred to earlier. And the second one was completed in 2017 to 18, over that 1 year period. And basically what it showed was that over the span of 7 years, the prevalence of CKD has actually been rising. In the first study, the prevalence was 9.07%. And that's shown here in the turquoise bar here for all stages of CKD. But in the second study, the prevalence was now 15.5%. So if I put it in a different way, it means that in 2011, we had 1 in 11 Malaysian adults who had CKD, but that's now increased so that 1 in every 7 Malaysian adults now is affected by CKD. So CKD is common and the prevalence is increasing. Now, we see that increase in CKD overall being translated to rising numbers of patients with new end-stage kidney disease. And this is a study which was done in 2017, basically trying to predict what would happen in the next few years if the trends continue. So at that time, they predicted that the end-stage kidney disease prevalence by 2020 would be more than 51,000 patients in this country. This is based on figures that are submitted to the National Renal Registry. And when we look at our National Renal Registry for the year 2020 now, just to see how accurate this report was, all the figures have not come in yet, but already we know that at least 48,000 plus patients have got end-stage kidney disease. So the projection is not far off, right? And the paper also projected that by 2040, there would be more than 100,000 patients on dialysis. And this is something which we feel is unlikely to be economically sustainable in terms of providing therapy for all the patients. So how much does it actually cost CKD to our country and to the healthcare system? Obviously, it's an immense strain on healthcare resources when we think about the costs of dialysis or transplant, and also in terms of the manpower of the staff, the doctors, dialysis staff, etc., and all the other paramedics to treat patients who have kidney disease. And there's also a loss of productivity or the contribution of individuals who have kidney disease to the country's economy. There's quite a number of economic evaluations that have been done in Malaysia, but I just put up here the latest 3 publications. So if you look in the sort of red bars here, this was a comparison between hemodialysis services and PD and how much the treatment would cost for 1 year of life saved. So it's the cost per patient. And basically what you can see when you look at the 2 hemodialysis and PD is that PD, or peritoneal dialysis, is marginally more cost effective than hemodialysis. But here's transplant in green. And you can see that actually transplant is the best option of all when we're talking about living kidney transplants. Okay, the benefits are not just economic, but Dr. Iqbal is going to share with you later about why we really want transplant to be the first option, if possible, for our patients with kidney failure. And a few years ago, Dr. Hirman Ismail and his colleagues then went on to publish an overall paper looking at the economic burden of end-stage kidney disease to the Malaysian healthcare system. Basically, again, over a period of 7 years, from 2010 to 2016, their research showed that the expenditure in terms of public sector expenditure on end-stage kidney disease had increased by as much as 94%. So in fact, in the year 2016, the expenditure was 1.12 billion Malaysian ringgit to provide therapy for just end-stage kidney disease patients. And that rise in the expenditure to treat end-stage kidney disease has actually been much faster than the overall rise in total health expenditure. So there is this sort of like disproportionate amount of the total healthcare budget that goes to treat end-stage kidney disease. And if we look at per capita expenditure for end-stage kidney disease treatment, it's 25 times more than the country's overall total healthcare expenditure per capita. But unfortunately, only 6% of all that spending is actually going to renal transplantation, and 94% of it is actually in order to keep patients on dialysis. So it's clear that the rapid increase in end-stage renal disease expenditure raises concerns about the sustainability of the existing financial sort of setup for end-stage kidney disease care, and highlights the importance to sort of institute something that can drastically address this problem, probably prevention at an earlier stage, or trying to utilize the more cost-effective forms of therapy. I also mentioned about the loss of productivity or young lives, and sadly, Malaysia, in comparison to other countries that report data to the US renal data system, Malaysia has the highest proportion of people in the young age group between 20 to 64 years old who are affected by end-stage kidney disease. And so this is a loss of their productivity and contribution to the country, as well as also shortened lives overall. And apart from dollars and cents, we also always worry about the lack of manpower. So the growth in the number of patients is outstripping the rate at which the country can produce trained staff to look after these patients. This is data from the US, but I can assure you it looks similar in Malaysia, where there's a growing shortfall between the number of patients and here, in this case, the number of nephrologists that are produced to look after them. So before I end, I must say that any talk about the costs of kidney disease must also talk about the social costs of chronic kidney disease to the patients and families. As you can see, even very young children and young adults are affected, and how devastating the consequences are for not just them, but their families as well. So I go back to the beginning to end this talk to reiterate the message about chronic kidney disease being common, harmful. But the good point here that I like to stress is that it is treatable. And there are many, many effective therapies to treat chronic kidney disease, which I believe Professor Halim is going to elaborate in the next talk. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Sunita. Thank you for an excellent talk. You managed to make it short and nice so that everyone can understand very well what is chronic kidney disease. I hope that we understand the burden of the disease. And as a pediatric nephrologist, I see children young as 8 months old coming in with needing dialysis, and it'll go on forever. I think we need to find a solution, the best solution. So the next, I would like to invite Professor Abdul Halim Abdul Ghafoor. Professor Halim, I apologize to you. I add another F to your father's name. Sorry, the typo error there in the invitation. Professor Halim is the senior consultant nephrologist and a professor of nephrology at Hospital UKM, or the new name is Hospital Chancellor Tengku Mukhris. Yes, and he is also the current president of Malaysian Society of Nephrology. He has multiple publications under his name, and he again his interest is renal replacement therapy, and he's the best person to talk on treatment options for chronic kidney disease in Malaysia and how we are faring between the options. Professor Halim, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Silva. You can see my slide, eh?
Yes, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So thank you to Rotary Club for inviting me. I think this is a very important session that I think I just want to convince everybody that we do have COVID-19 pandemic, but we've been having CKD pandemic for so many years, and we cannot win this fight if we only hope Ministry of Health, or we only hope Ministry of Education, or only NGO, or only private to fight this pandemic. We need everybody to fight this pandemic. I'm just going to talk a bit on the chronic kidney disease in Malaysia. What are the treatment options? I'm not going to talk about what drugs to use, in particular, that's really deep, but to show why and how and we are faring, how we are doing now. Are we doing good? Are we doing bad? Or can we smile? Or should we cry? So I think that's important. So one is about chronic kidney disease. Dr. Sunita kindly already explained to you that chronic kidney disease is a disease that should carry on for the last 3 months. If you look at this is healthy kidney, very nice, juicy and things like that, And if you look at diseased kidney, it becomes shrunken. I normally say this is a scarred kidney, so patient do understand. And this is chronic kidney disease is not reversible. You will see a lot of patients come to you and to say that, oh, doctor, saya ada kawan last time cuci darah 2 minggu, kemudian tak cuci darah. That is not chronic kidney disease. That is acute kidney injury or acute kidney disease. And chronic kidney disease, they actually long, it's actually for more than 3 months. And what are the causes? These are the risk factors, and we are famous for that. We are very sweet people, Malaysia. We are sweet and we have hypertension. We take care of ourselves good. We are getting older. CV, we have nice food, again, very sweet and salty food, and we become obese. And these are all the risk factors on CKD, and we can see that we do have all these risk factors in our population. These are the stages of chronic kidney disease. As everything else, there are stages. And if we look at end-stage kidney disease, this is stage 5, when the function is actually less than 50%. But this is not important. I don't want to treat patient at stage 5. Stage 5, when you get stage 5, you need some form of a dialysis, either peritoneal dialysis or hemodialysis, or the patient need kidney transplantation. I need everybody's help to treat here, stage 2, stage 3. We need NGO help to treat patient stage 2 and stage 3. We need a private help to treat patient in stage 2 and stage 3 to prevent them from getting stage 5. Why is it important to prevent patient with stage 5? Because majority of kidney patient, chronic kidney disease patient die before they reach end-stage kidney disease. When they reach end-stage kidney disease, they are on dialysis, we have to congratulate them. Well, you are a survivor, because many of them will die due to cardiovascular disease before they reach end-stage kidney disease. That is why it's really important for us to prevent them from getting end-stage kidney disease. That is stage 5 of chronic disease. Prevent them from going for dialysis or going for transplantation. The 5-year probability of death in dialysis is like 1/3 in 5 years. So it's really high. And why do they die? They don't die because of chronic kidney disease. They die because of heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and they die because of stroke. So we have to try to prevent them from progressing to stage 5 or even stage 4, and this is really important. And we need everybody's help. We need to tackle the CKD pandemic. Is like we are treating COVID-19 pandemic. Hopefully we have one MySejahtera for CKD, so we can scan the thing, Then only we can win. And the life expectancy for patient with kidney failure is shorter than some of the common cancer. If you have prostate cancer, you actually live longer than somebody with chronic kidney disease. Not everybody, but this is epidemiological data in the study to show that somebody with prostate cancer and colon cancer, they live longer than somebody with kidney failure. So it is really important to prevent patient getting advanced kidney failure. What about chronic kidney disease in Malaysia? Dr. Sunita have shown, but I just want to re-emphasize back. In 2011, the prevalence was 9.1. We are happy, about 10%, we're happy. 7 years later, the prevalence is 15.5%. So only 7 years is jumped 7%. Sorry, this is more than 7%, 6%. So this is something that we have to be worried of. And about 2.6 million of people in Malaysia do have CKD, and worse still that they do not know that they have CKD. When they do not know that they have CKD, they will start taking painkiller more. They will they take high protein diet that can maybe injure the kidney. And sadly, we know that diabetes is the main cause of chronic kidney disease in Malaysia. 1 in 5 adult Malaysians do have diabetes. So you see that the risk factor is high, and that is why patients develop chronic kidney disease. And we know that obesity can cause chronic kidney disease. 1 in 2 adult Malaysians are overweight or obese, especially during MCO. Actually, I blame during MCO. I put on weight due to MCO, so I think it's something to blame. So, and 3 out of 10 people in Malaysia have hypertension. So this is really high. And these all are the risk factor of somebody developing CKD. So we shouldn't treat somebody with end-stage renal disease on dialysis only. We should treat diabetes, overweight, hypertension to prevent them from getting chronic kidney disease, and also to retard the progression of chronic kidney disease. So what about end-stage renal disease burden? You see this is data for the last 7 years, the number up by 67%. So Dr. Sunita has shown the same data. And in 2010, the government spent about 572 million. In 2016, government spent 1.12 billion, and this is up by 94%. And as Dr. Sunita mentioned, that 4.2% of Malaysian total healthcare expenditure went to dialysis. Very minimal go to transplantation. I know Dr. Iqbal is not happy at all. So very minimal went to transplantation. This is much more higher than the high-income country like Japan, Thailand, Italy, Australia, New Zealand, and others. And what is the cause of end-stage renal disease? As I mentioned, is diabetes. Diabetes is the main cause of end-stage renal disease and chronic kidney disease in Malaysia. We are very sweet. We do take a lot of calorie. We have to look at what we are eating. And this is a projection of end-stage renal disease patient on dialysis. Dr. Sunita has mentioned in 2040, maybe we have 100,000 patients on dialysis, and Malaysia cannot afford this. Malaysia cannot afford this. Definitely, government cannot afford this. We need NGOs' help. We need a private help to actually treat patients with end-stage renal disease. Not only treat, I think what is important, I want everybody to understand, to prevent somebody from going to end-stage renal disease, because end-stage renal disease is expensive. So how do you manage chronic kidney disease? I'm not going to go deep into how do you manage chronic kidney disease, but I just like to say that because diabetes is a cause of chronic kidney disease, so the way you treat it is by controlling your diabetes. Hypertension is a cause for chronic diseases. How do you treat this is by controlling hypertension. You know that obesity is a cause for chronic kidney disease. You have to actually exercise and try to get correct BMI and eating healthily to maintain your BMI. This is important for what we call that to prevent chronic kidney disease and also to treat chronic kidney disease. There's some data to say that if you treat cholesterol, a lipid, patient on CKD, they do better than patient that we do not treat their cholesterol. And we know that stroke and cardiovascular disease is a main cause of death in somebody with CKD. So lipid is good in somebody with chronic kidney disease. And there are 2 drugs that we use for chronic kidney disease. This is ACE inhibitor and ARB. I'm not going to mention their name. And we actually use this drug for somebody with chronic kidney disease. We have to monitor, we have to respect these drugs. We monitor the patient when we give this drug. And there's a lot of data to show that this can retard the progression of chronic kidney disease. And there's another new kid on the block that we are very excited. Now we have another drug, SGLT2 inhibitor, that is used again to retard the progression of chronic kidney disease. There are beautiful data showing that patient, even on ACE inhibitor or ARB, when you put an SGLT2 inhibitor, it can actually retard the progression of chronic kidney disease and also reduce the protein in the urine. I'm not going to go in detail on that, but again, what we have to do, we have to control the risk factors, and by controlling the factor, it can retard the progression of chronic kidney disease, and also by using ACE inhibitor or ARB, and also SGLT2 inhibitor that can retard the progression of chronic kidney disease. But we have to respect these drugs and we have to use it cautionally. And what about patients who end up end-stage renal disease. When they reach end-stage renal disease, like Dr. Sunita mentioned, we have to think of renal replacement therapy. But not everybody that we should think about renal replacement therapy. There is a palliative nephrology that is coming into the picture that we have to respect, that there are some patients won't be suitable for any replacement therapy. So we actually will treat this patient conservatively or put them on palliative nephrology. And but majority of patients in Malaysia will go into renal replacement therapy. Either they go for hemodialysis. This is dialysis that you use a machine 3 times a week. You need dialysis. Every session is about 4 hours. You have peritoneal dialysis. And also you have renal transplantation, where Dr. Iqbal will speak a bit more on renal transplantation. And this is a number of new patients. You see that a majority of patients in Malaysia still choose hemodialysis, although Dr. Sunita showed that peritoneal dialysis, a patient with peritoneal dialysis has better quality of life, it's cheaper. We did a study to show that if we have 50% of patient on peritoneal dialysis and 50% patient of hemodialysis, we will save more money. But again, there are many patients actually still choose hemodialysis. But I'm quite happy because we look at this graph, we see that actually the peritoneal dialysis pickup rate is coming up, you know. But sadly, Dr. Iqbal, we have to do something with transplantation. It just didn't pick up, you know. We did something for peritoneal dialysis. We see there is some pickup rate of peritoneal dialysis in our populations. And when we compare the prevalence of end-stage renal disease in the world, we are number 10. So that's good, you know, we are top 10. That is not good, you know. This is something that we don't want to score, you know, top 10. So we don't want to score, and we are number 10, you know, for wrong reason. And I just want to show this graph, you know, I just want to show this graph just to let everybody understand. You see that a lot of patients on hemodialysis, and some of them will be dialyzed in NGOs, they will be dialyzed in private. But if you look at the funder, the dialysis funding, actually more than 60%, 65% from public sector. Majority of them is Ministry of Health. So although they are dialyzing in private, although they are dialyzing in NGO, but government is paying it. When I say public sector, is Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, ATM, Zakat also is public sector, SOCSO, JPA, this is a public sectors, you know. So they are the main funder for patient on dialysis. So only maybe 30% paying from a private, and only maybe about 30% also from out of pocket, you know. So maybe less than 30% is right. Only this is not 30%, this is what 20%, or this is also less than 20%. So again, payers are from the public sectors. Dr. Sunita has mentioned this, but I just want to show again, you know, this is what the Markov model that we did in our study. I think the same study as Hilman did. So this is what we are projecting, the prevalence of end-stage renal disease in public sector. You see the orange until 2016, and we expect it to go up by to 51,000 in 2030. And how much that we spend, again, this is up to 2016, and the blue one we project it, we will need more money. If this is the public fund contributor, Ministry of Health was 55%, SOCSO 16%, JPA 11%, Zakat is 11%, Ministry of Finance, Defense 5%, Ministry of Education 2%. So again, these are the main contributor for dialysis. So I just want everybody to understand that, no, I don't want patients to go on dialysis, you know. We shouldn't be talking about opening more dialysis center. We care about patient, we open dialysis center, you know. I think it's a wrong way of caring, you know. You're caring somebody by opening up dialysis center. If really you want to care about patient or the population, let us do something to prevent. Let us put money of giving them good medication, because this medication need money. Let us do something, you know. Let us have a screening program for Malaysian. Let us do that. Let us educate the public, because opening up a dialysis center is good, but I mean, prevention is better. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Professor Halim, thank you very much. I think you nailed it. You said we don't need more patients on hemodialysis, we need prevention. And I'm telling you, at the end, we have a sweet news for everyone. The person who's going to give a word of thanks have a very good news for all of us. I just spoke to him. So I will let him tell us the news later on. We heard from Professor Halim and Dr. Sunita about the burden of our chronic kidney disease and end-stage kidney disease, and Dr. Halim went on to talk about what are the options. Even the options are there, prevention is better than cure. So apart from that, I would like to tell that we have about 61 people joining in the webinar. We have Rotarians from Uganda, Dr. Richard, from India, from Sri Lanka, from Indonesia, and also my Rotarian friends from the Philippines. With that, I would like to call upon the next speaker. Since we have spoken about chronic kidney disease, the burden, the treatment options for chronic kidney disease, the next one will be on renal transplant. Renal transplant in Malaysia has been there since 1973, 73, 75. And we have been the last 3 or 4 decades. How are we doing compared to our neighbors? And with that talk will be given to us by Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Abdul Hafiz. He is the consultant nephrologist at the UITM Hospital in Sungai Buloh. He's also the head of the transplant program in the university. Dr. Muhammad Iqbal.
Hey, very good afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Silva, for that kind introduction to President Siva, Dr. Sunita, Prof. Halim, and everybody around the world. So I'm getting very nervous here that I have to speak in front of so many people. Okay, and I'm just as ikan bilis as compared to the 2 previous speakers. So, okay, I'm just going to answer the first question, can we do better? So that's basically trying to imply that are we doing well at all? And sorry, oh, it's not working, sorry. Okay, so the answer to that is I think you've seen a lot of newspaper cuttings that there's approximately 25,000 people waiting for a kidney transplant. So basically the answer to that is we are not doing well. So yes, we have to, whether we can or not, that it's all, it's going to be tough, but we should try whatever it is, okay? So because I'm a small ikan bilis and I'm a new kid on the block, I'm just going to try and introduce you to UITM, because I don't think many of you know that we even exist. So even Dr. Thiru, I guess, or even Dr. Selva know where we are. But yeah, we started late. We're a very small and new medical faculty. So we didn't start with a major university hospital. So we are actually distributed at 3 sites: Sungai Buloh, that's our HD unit, that's our peritoneal dialysis unit. We are also at Selayang, that's our newest dialysis unit. And that will be our Puncak Alam. So we will have our own hospital, which will be functional in June this year. So please, this is open to everybody. So please come and support us, right? Not to become CKD and end stage, of course, but yeah. So if you've got anybody who needs nephrology support, please come. So I have to do this, sorry, okay? Okay, so this is the outline of my talk. What is kidney transplant? The history of kidney transplant in Malaysia. What are the types of kidney transplant? Because it's important to understand the different type of transplant. How is kidney transplant performed, and how can we improve the country's transplantation rate? So end-stage renal failure, as told by Professor Halim, we have 3 options. The first one is, of course, hemodialysis, where everybody's familiar with that, where we blood dialysis. Then we have peritoneal dialysis, which is basically dialysis, air lah, they say, okay, water dialysis, and of course transplants, okay, kidney transplantation. What happens in kidney transplantation is basically you take a healthy kidney or a normal kidney and transplant it in the lower abdomen of the patient with end-stage renal failure. We just keep that the old kidneys there, but we transplant it along with all the vessels, okay? So the best thing is, God has made it that humans can actually live with 1 kidney. So that's why you hear certain people actually donating their kidney to a person, because they can actually live with 1 kidney, all right? But I'll come to that in a while again. So why should we choose kidney transplantation? As both speakers have mentioned, the best option it is the best option for those who can actually, what do you call it, who can be transplanted, you know, because transplant is of course not for everyone, but because transplantation offers a higher quality of life for patients. And the most obvious is, of course, there's no more dialysis for patients. That means patients do not have to go to a hemodialysis center 3 times a week, 4 hours on a dialysis machine, or they have to do their peritoneal dialysis every day. So basically, they can lead a normal life, basically. So they have fewer dietary restrictions. And when you compare it to patients who are on dialysis and peritoneal dialysis, you can see that they have a lower rate of mortality as well as being unwell or morbidity, okay? And again, as shown by Dr. Sunita in her first slide, it is much cheaper in the long term as compared to hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. This has been shown by Prof. Halim, but when you look at it by diabetes, we are 5th in the world. This is in terms of the number of end-stage renal failure. And what's more important is when you look at it in terms of age groups, Malaysia tops in terms of the 45 to 64 and 20 to 44 years old. And as you can imagine, these are the most functional and the most active years of your life. So you can imagine the patients. So it's very important basically to actually prevent end-stage renal failure altogether. And unfortunately, it's happening in the younger age groups in our country, okay? So again, I think you've seen the dialysis patients are doubling, tripling, dialysis is tripling, but transplant rate is very much static since it was first set. And this is a much more dramatic. You can see that the dialysis, and it's still going up like that. Well, the number of transplant on the right, you can see it's going down or even plateauing, although there is some improvement over these last 2 years, okay? I will skip this slide. So it was started, as Dr. Selva said, in 1975 in HKL, and so was bypass. However, the rates has been staying the same. So of course, the first questions, if you want to sort the problem out, why? Well, unfortunately, this are some of my opinion. Okay, so transplant can only be done centrally. So it is only offered in HKL Selayang. In the universities, UITM at the moment. I think UKM is coming up very soon as well, again, because they were offering transplant a few years ago. And of course, privately, you can do in Prince Court and Sunway. But you've noticed that this means that there's a disadvantage for people up north, people down south, people in the East Coast, and people in East Malaysia. Okay, so this is, again, not right. Well, why? Because there are also lack of specialists and experts lacking in transplant. The policies, it may not be ideal, like opt-in, and then of course donor and recipient care post-transplant is different in each institution. But more what we're trying to focus is public's attitude, perception, beliefs, and understanding, because there's a lot of this going on. So, and not only public's, but also the healthcare attitudes as well, okay? Perception, beliefs, and understanding, because studies have shown that, you know, the healthcare are also very much slow in their response to actually to support transplantation. So this is an important concept that you have to understand. What are the types of kidney transplantation? There is a cadaveric or the disease. That means when it's based on the donor itself. So when you look, so if the patient is dead, and it's not dead because of old age or a heart attack, it can, but no, sorry, it's not old age or dengue, or it's actually from brain dead. So this is a important concept to understand. So brain dead happens when you have a very severe injury to your brain, and that means your brain cannot function anymore, and as a result, basically, technically, you are dead, okay? And it's not the same as being a coma, you're unconscious, you're having a seizure. That's not totally a different thing, okay? And of course, the other one that I mentioned was living related, where either the sibling, spouse, or brothers and sisters, or parents, that means who are still alive, that give or that donate that transplant, okay? So again, decease or brain death transplant. So again, to remind again, so if a patient suffers a severe brain injury, then they are put on a ventilator machine, and once they are confirmed to have brain death by a lot of tests by specialists, then the family are offered to asked whether they would like to that person to have their organs donated. And this is, I don't know whether you've seen this, this is called a pledging. So you can actually pledge to be an organ donor. I mean, and I don't want you to think that there's a difference, because sometimes I think it's the message that we have to try and put across is not the same. So when we say Jom Derma Darah, of course we can go and you can see it at it's in the what you call it, it's in the shopping complexes, it's everywhere, but not when you say Jom donate your organs. It's not the same, right? And this is a very quick one. As you can see, when we have statistics where the pledges are basically, you can see that there's equal in Malay and Chinese, but then when it comes to the crunch, mostly Chinese who donate the organs, you see, so that tells us something. So there's a lot of misconceptions, especially with regards to religion and fear and safety about the operation itself. And there's been a lot of survey, and as you can see, this is the most interesting, agama melarang. So there's no agama which melarang or forbids an organ to be transplanted. Mencacatkan jenazah means basically you're going to, the patient, you're going to create a lot of need to the body, which is not true, okay? So that is the fatwa. We already have a fatwa since 1970. I'm coming up to 10 minutes. So if you allow me just 2 minutes of added time, I would be very grateful. So there's already a fatwa.
You have time, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so there is a fatwa already since 1970s that says that derma or organ donation is allowed, okay? Even by this famous mufti as well, okay? And, some people like this one. So there's questions like, can non-Muslims, we receive organs from non-Muslims and all that. It's all been answered. All these questions have been answered. It's all in the internet, okay? And it's by proper religious people who answered it. So I won't go in this, but cadaveric transplant is basically an example when you have a patient who is brain dead in Perlis, you have to bring them over all the way to Kuala Lumpur. So you can imagine the logistics that's involved in it, right? So there are people who are actually coordinating all that and which organs can be donated. So if that person is dead, then you can donate all the organs, okay? As compared to if you're living, you're only allowed to donate your kidney and a small part of your liver, okay? So I don't know whether you've seen this before. This is your organ pledger card. So you'll get one of this. Saya sudah berikrar, okay? If you do become an organ pledger, you have to inform the family. And if you know somebody who's pledged, you have to respect the decision, because a lot of the time when it comes to the crunch, the family will overrule that. And unfortunately, we don't have any power at the moment to actually to sort of say, look, there's been a pledger and we are going to take the organs. We're not allowed. We still have to have the family's decision. Very quickly, last one, living related transplant is when the siblings, so this is a more controlled way of doing it. So we look for any contraindications to kidney transplantation. We bring them for counseling, both of them, the donor and the recipient. We go and see whether they are compatible, ABO blood group, cross-match and HLA typing. But for example, our president had an ABO incompatible. So transplant has developed and new technology. So if matches, then we do a lot of workup on them, including x-rays. And of course, donation as well. So the first thing to do is to ensure that the donor, if they decide to donate their kidney, will not develop end-stage renal failure in the future. So there are contraindications to being a donor as well. If they're matches, they have to undergo a battery of tests as well to make sure their heart, their lungs, and everything is well. So that we take one kidney and the surgeon has to attach that to the donor. And advice to the donor is basically they just have to look after themselves, once they have donated a kidney, and they have to be followed up, okay? And even if they get diabetes or hypertension, it must be controlled in the future, okay? So the risk to the donor, they always ask, what is it? Risk of donor end stage is very low as long as you lead a normal, healthy lifestyle. And once you've received a transplant, all you need to take is your medication to prevent it from being rejected. So I think, so in summary, what can we do? Kidney transplantation is the best renal replacement therapy option. There are two types of kidney transplant that you try and understand the concept, cadaveric or according to the donor. and as well as the living transplant. And of course, you have to understand the concept of brain dead as well. So increase your knowledge on transplant. What we can do, increase knowledge on transplant by reading all these. And if you can, pledge to become an organ donor, and don't be scared. We're not going to get your organs, it's not going to change anything. All right. So with that, I thank you for your attention. Thank you, Dr. Selva.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Iqbal. I think, ladies and gentlemen, you heard from him. Transplant is the best treatment if you have end-stage renal disease. But before that, if we can take care of our kidneys very well, we don't have to need that treatment itself. Now, while we're waiting, there are also a few other who's joined us again from India, from Uganda, also from I think from Brunei, Helen. Now, while waiting for the next speaker, I think we missed in the earlier introduction. Dr. Tiruventuran is the consultant nephrologist at the Sunway Medical Center, and he's also one of the directors of National Kidney Foundation, NKF. And he's going to talk to us how an NGO like NKF can help, and what is their milestones, and what is the future for NKF and other NGOs associated with renal disease, renal treatment, sorry. And as you know, NKF was Rotary Club of Petaling Jaya's initial initiative. With that, Dr. Tiru, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. Yes, I'll just share my screen first. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yep, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Rotary, thank you, Selva, thank you, all of you to take time off and to be here this afternoon. I think it's a fantastic initiative from what I'll do over the next 10 minutes or so is to quickly talk about NKF and what we have been doing as far as organ donation and transplantation is concerned. I'm a nephrologist by training, but I also sit on the board of directors for the National Kidney Foundation of Malaysia. Now, our story started in the 1960s when there was a young teacher by the name of Mr. Harry Kidd, who was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease, and his illness was greatly publicized by the local media at the time, and essentially it caught the attention of the public, so much so that funds were secured, and the very first dialysis machine was brought in from the United States. This machine was housed in Asunta Hospital in Petaling Jaya, and Mr. Harry Kidd was initiated on dialysis, but unfortunately, because of the in at that time, he passed on within a year of starting dialysis. But he essentially was the ignition factor for this story about NKF. So this story caught the attention of Rotary Club of Petaling Jaya at the time, and Rotary Club decided to take it upon themselves to raise funds to assist patients who required dialysis at the time. And in addition to that, they formalized this whole assistance by setting up the National Kidney Foundation of Malaysia in 1969. So essentially, NKF was set up by the Rotary Club of Petaling Jaya. So since then, we have really grown, and we are currently one of the biggest non-governmental organizations, health-related non-governmental organizations in Malaysia. We are run by a board of directors, essentially. We have got a reputation for prudent financial management and commitment to serve poor patients with kidney disease. while emphasizing early detection and prevention of kidney disease as well. Till today, we have representation from the Rotary Club of PJ at the board of directors, and almost 40% of membership is contributed by the Rotary Club of PJ. This partnership between Rotary Club and the nephrology community in Malaysia has led to the success of NKF as we see it today. Now, the National Kidney Foundation has got three major programs. The first program is the dialysis program, which is very well established, and we spend about 30 million a year conducting this program. We have both patients on hemodialysis and CAPD in our program. Another big area of focus is the public on kidney disease with the assistance of Ministry of Health and the Malaysian Society of Nephrology. But interestingly, NKF started talk about kidney transplantation when they launched the organ donation card in 1990. So initially we drove the campaign, and we had about 4,000 donors who had pledged their organs and were registered with the National Kidney Foundation of Malaysia. However, in the late 90s, 1999, Ministry of Health decided to formalize a separate unit called the National Transplant Resource Center in 1999, and subsequently the National Transplant Resource Center of the Ministry of Health was the agency that handles all issues related to organ donation and transplantation. Currently, NKF supports NTRC in terms of organ transplantation, awareness, education, especially as far as kidney health is concerned. Sorry, my slides seem to have frozen.
Yeah.
Can't move on. Just give me a second. Let me just try and exit and come back in. I don't know why my slide is frozen. Okay. Okay, can you see the next slide?
Yes.
Okay. So NKF has developed a tagline to create a buzz about organ donation, and that is be an organ donor. All it costs is a little love, a little bit of love. And with this, we actually tried to formalize some programs to create awareness in the general public. And we have got something called the Minggu Campaign Pendermaan Organ, which is celebrated in October every year. And its target is to create awareness and educate the masses. And usually after this program, there's a huge number of organ donors who pledge their organs during this campaign and will be issued organ donor cards. Apart from that, we also have got ongoing campaigns using taglines like Ambil Serious and Kidney Community. This is essentially ad hoc programs to once again create awareness and to create the buzz as far as organ donation is concerned. As Prof. Iqbal mentioned just now, our programs in the NKF has thus far focused on the cadaveric transplant program. We're trying to get the public to be aware of to become organ donors. But we have also moved on to trying to increase awareness among the living related program, where relatives or emotionally related donors are encouraged to come forward to donate their Code for Life program. This program was actually designed to increase the living related kidney transplantation. It's led by our public education unit in the National Kidney Foundation of Malaysia with a lot of help from University Putra Malaysia. So what we do is we basically once again create a lot of awareness activity, more focusing on living related, so meaning donations from either siblings, spouse, parents, or or any, or uncles, aunties, any form of emotional but living related kidney program. Through this program, we managed to produce a book called The Masih Ada Yang Sayang in December 2020. Once again, focusing on some of the taboos as far as kidney organ donation is concerned. And a lot of these programs are conducted online, especially since the I've got multinationals and private organizations who come forward and work with us in some of our programs. And one of our bigger partnerships is with the Sunway Group. A large amount of cash is raised every year by the Sunway Group. And in 2015, they managed to raise more than $1 million and use that to set up an organ donation promotion unit at the Sunway Pyramid. And basically, this was a physical setup in which people, patrons to the mall could come in and talk to us or find out anything they wanted to know about organ donation. So what are our future plans? Well, despite all this talk about organ donation, the statistics do tell the truth about what's happening in Malaysia. We are lagging far behind the rest of the world as far as kidney transplantation is concerned. Many reasons for it. Problems is that I would think that our donor pool has been inadequate. Essentially, when you talk about donor pool, it's the number of people available to donate the kidneys. So despite having about 400,000 members of public have pledged their organs, but when it comes to real donation, when, for example, in someone, if an organ pledger had got involved in an accident and has been declared brain dead, to actually get the kidneys, that's a different question altogether. So despite having a large number of organ donors or organ pledgers, we don't seem to have a significant number of transplants that are actually carried out. So NKF is trying to contribute to this space, to try to contribute to the organ donor pool by essentially coming up with some very specific programs. One is called the Transplant Fund. Despite us having a general fund for patients with kidney disease, we want to set up a specific fund just for transplant. Then can be used to facilitate for example, laboratory testing for donors and recipients who are not able to afford to do so, and also to consider donor incentives, for example, to pay for donors who come from outstation and while they're for loss of income. Another area of focus is going to be transplant advocacy. Once again, if you notice, a lot of talk about transplant comes from the healthcare providers. As you can see, we all are nephrologists here talking about it, but we want people outside the circle to talk about it as well. We want the legal industry to talk about it. We want the civil society to talk about it, because there are a lot of issues around transplantation, especially when we start talking about living unrelated transplant programs. Living unrelated transplant programs are when a donor with very altruistic intentions comes forward to donate his or her kidneys. After all, we have two kidneys. A true altruistic donor from donating one kidney. So in relevance to this, we are trying to work with the Malaysian Society of Transplantation and to some extent the Malaysian Society of Nephrology to come up with a paired kidney exchange program. This program is essentially unrelated living transplant program in which we have two pairs. They may not be compatible with each other, meaning the donor and the recipient may not be compatible, but when we match two pairs or when we match more than two pairs, then they may become compatible. So then this would then increase the donor pool and thereby increase the number of transplants that can be done. But of course, there are a lot of barriers for these programs to be launched. We have got ethical barriers, we have got the laws in the country, and of course, finance is another issue. So hopefully moving forward, 2001, 2002 onwards, there'll be more talk about this, and there'll be more hard cash being put. So with that, I hope I shared with you all just a brief role that NKF can play in the transplant environment. And I would like to hand back to Dr. Silva.
Thank you, Dr. Thiru. Excellent. I think we get more inspiration for more Rotary clubs to do more things with kind of renal care. Since time is catching up with us, I would like to invite our last speaker, and that's our club president, Rotarian Sivakumar Raghavan, to share with us his journey as a end-stage renal disease patient. Siva, your time is very short. I hope you can do it within time. Siva, yours, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just need the slide. Yasmin, the slide, please.
Yeah.
All right. It's a very okay. Right. Briefly, very quickly, because I was just given 5 minutes.
Sorry, Siva.
I just want to run through what I went through. My life journey after CKD. You already know what is CKD, chronic kidney disease. In 2008, I was just 38 years old at the time. I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. And the reason for my kidney failure was immunoglobulin nephritis, IgA, all right? Immunoglobulin nephritis A, IgA. So then it was a shock for me. It was, everything was, before that, I was very healthy. I've never been warded or never fall sick. Very healthy, going around, doing my work. And after being diagnosed as a chronic kidney disease patient, the asset in the company became a liability. I was terminated from my job in 2009, right? Of course, I took up a case and won after 5 years. And 2010, I started my own business, all right? You see, when you are ill, stricken with major illness, nothing compares like you having your own business, right? So I was at the time was thinking about my wife actually. What would happen to her if I just leave her like that? Whatever insurance what I have might not be useful if she doesn't know how to use the money. So I guided her because that's what I was doing best. I was guiding a lot of entrepreneurs to start up their own kindergarten. So I started my own kindergarten. So then we started. Then from the CKD, I was managing it very well, not being dialyzed as what our prof was highlighting just now. I was going vegetarian, handling my diet very well. I stopped drinking alcohol. I was smoking occasionally before that. I stopped that. So with that, very healthy, I was maintaining. At the tail end of the CKD, after 5 years, one of my friend, he met me for tea and he said, you know what, Siva, you are having this CKD, you're having this kidney problem. Of course, mind you, I'm not on dialysis yet. So he said that there is some product that he would like to introduce to me because some of the dialysis patient is benefiting from that. You know that when you're on dialysis, you won't have any urine. And after taking this medication, they're having urine and all. All these stories came about. So at that point, when you're in a misery, everything looks like so, enlightening and, hopeful. So I went on, I took up the product. Within 6 months, for the first 5 years, I was managing my creatinine level up to 200, 100 something to 200, and my urea also was very managed. But after taking the product, slowly it went up. The creatinine went up. In 6 months, my creatinine went up to 1,200. It was like a walking time bomb. So I was immediately given IJC on the neck and did dialysis. And I chose to do peritoneal dialysis after listening to none other than Dr. Sunita. So she did my catheter in my tummy for the peritoneal dialysis. And after 6 months, my wife donated her kidney. We were under Ministry of Health, we were the first incompatible kidney transplant. She's A positive blood group and I'm B positive blood group. So, but it's quite common in Japan and US and all. So I cut the story short. So then we took up that offer, and then we did in Hospital Kuala Lumpur, and was successful. Everything went on well. And then you see earlier I did mention that I was the cause of my kidney failure was immunoglobulin nephritis. So could be because of that and high dosage of immunosuppressant, some viruses attack, and then in 2016 my transplant failed. All right. Then I started on hemodialysis. For some reasons, because I'm very active, I move around. Peritoneal dialysis limits my movement. I have to do 4 times in a day. All right. So yeah, so I am on dialysis 3 times a week until now. All right, and you can see I've all the package I've done. I was CKD. I've done peritoneal dialysis. I've done transplant. Now I'm on dialysis. On top of that, to make the package full, I've also gone through COVID-19. In January 10th, I was positive COVID-19, and I went through that. God willing, I didn't get very badly affected. The worst symptom was diarrhea. Otherwise, I was admitted, and then I was discharged after 13 days. Now, I just want to emphasize on few key areas. Now, the time that the CKD to dialysis, all right? So I want to emphasize that if you know anybody and if you are in contact with any kidney CKD patient before they do dialysis, please do not encourage them to take any products, all right? Because whatever manufactured and whatsoever, it might have some steroids and whatsoever, it may damage the kidney even faster. The kidney can't take it, all right? And then I would like to also share with all of you, my wife who donated her kidney after 2 years, she was pregnant and she delivered a baby girl. That was my second child. In 2010, my son was born, and 2014, my daughter was born. So, and in these 12 years, I've opened 5 companies, 3 Sendirian Berhad, and numerous sole proprietorship. So nothing stops me. I'm very active. I'm also the president of Rotary Club of Malawati. Thanks to all the members who gave me the opportunity. Hopefully, I'm doing up to their mark as the president. Yeah. So those are the things that I like to share. If you all have any questions, you can post it later. Thank you very much.
Siva, thank you, President Siva. Thank you very much. I think we have come to the tail end of our 5 talks, and now just would like to have a question and answer. Some of the questions and answers have been answered by the speakers in the chat box. But anyway, I would like to throw the first question just for the benefit of the audience. One of our audience from India, Rotarian Pankaj Vora from Bombay Peninsula, Mumbai, he asked question whether his eGFR, that's the estimated GFR of 63 creatinine 1.2 milligram. I think ours will be different. Dr. Sunita, I think you've answered him. He's a diabetic and hypertensive for 30 years, since 30 years, sorry. So what is the prevention? For the benefit of all the audience, would you like to just to answer the question? Unmute, Sunita. Sunita, unmute.
Okay, sorry.
Uh,
I think basically he mentioned he's got high blood pressure and he's also got diabetes. So
Good.
it'd be very important at this early stage to control the blood pressure and the diabetes well. And there are targets that we aim for. So, you know, for a diabetic, you'd aim for HbA1c, which is a measure of your long-term control, less than 7%. And for blood pressure at this level, you probably aim for something less than 130 on 80 because of the diabetes, right?
Yep.
And then there are a group of agents known as RAS blockers. So these are ACE inhibitors, and they all have the ending pril at the end of their name. So it's captopril, enalapril, things like that. Or the related group, which is the ARBs, and they all end with sartan. So you may see in the medication losartan, telmisartan, etc. And this group of agents also have been shown to protect the kidneys. They help to treat blood pressure as well, and they also use for other purposes like heart failure. But we use them for kidney protection. And then it's very, very important if you have kidney disease to communicate that to the doctors that you meet, because sometimes the medications that they may prescribe may not be suitable or may need to be adjusted in terms of dosage. And also in terms of investigations, there are some investigations like CT scan which may require contrast, or angiograms for the heart investigations, etc. And these things may not be safe for the kidneys, but we always have to have a discussion, because sometimes the heart problem is actually more important. So this is the sort of thing that we kind of watch out for, avoid any possible toxic agents. So a lot of people also are sometimes advised by their friends or relatives, why don't you try this herbal remedy? And you get a lot of anecdotal reports. Or even if you go and look at online marketing, sort of miracle drugs that supposedly help you to stop dialysis. And I think that's really, really dangerous. And the public needs to be aware of that. So those are the main things. And apart from that, it's just maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Keep your weight within the level that is, acceptable, and exercise and watch your diet, and stop smoking if you're a smoker.
Thank you, Sunita. Thank you. I mean, there's a few questions I want to summarize. I think question from Dr. Krishna, you have answered it actually. There's a question from IPDG Leo. IPDG Leo is one of a retired Ministry of Health personnel. He asked the questions: why is there no preferential the two modalities of treatment, CAPD and hemodialysis? Even though we say CAPD, is there any preference? I know the answer. Between CAPD and peritoneal dialysis, I would like to hear from you or Prof. Halim actually. Either one of you. Is there any preference between CAPD and hemodialysis?
If Prof is not there, then maybe I'll just ask.
Okay, I think Prof is not there. Yeah.
Okay. We prefer PD. Actually, in Malaysia, we've been trying to promote that as the first choice in terms of dialysis option when you have to start dialysis. And there are many reasons. The first of which is that PD is a lot more flexible. So the theme of this year's World Kidney Day is living well with kidney disease. And we really want to help the patient to achieve their life goals and to have, enjoy quality of life. And PD gives you a much better chance of that, because it's treatment that you are in control of. You do in your own home environment or in your work environment. So it's less disruptive to the work schedule and to if you're a student, to the ability to attend classes, because it can be done according to your own time and convenience. Of course, CAPD requires that you do the exchanges 3 or 4 times a day, but certainly when you first start dialysis, you may not need to do it every day, and you may not need 4 times a day. So there's a lot of flexibility in how we can start the dialysis with PD. We can also sort of practice flexible dialysis, but hemodialysis, but it's not quite so easy to sort of manipulate. PD, because you do it every day, is a lot more free in terms of your diet. So you can eat more and drink more, because you can just adjust the type of therapy that you use. But hemodialysis, you are depending on somebody else to pull out the fluid or to sort of dialyze you, to remove if you've had excessive food over the weekend, etc. So and it's done alternate days. So you really have to be much more careful about your dietary intakes. PD is done at home. So again, in this era of COVID, it is a much safer therapy because you don't have to be exposed to a lot of other patients or the staff. And some patients have difficulty because they have to use public transport to come to dialysis. So when you compare PD versus hemodialysis in terms of infection risk, particularly now with COVID, PD is the way to go.
Yeah, thank you. And then last, I think one last question, this is a very important question. Should CKD patients take the COVID-19 vaccine? I think we are pushing for it. I would like to hear from you, actually.
Sorry, Dr. Sunita, I'm around, but
yes, Halim.
Being somebody that I normally say ladies first, so you can answer. Yeah.
Okay, Halim, you can answer that, Halim.
Yeah. Yes. Wajib. In Muslim, we say wajib, not harus anymore. So you have to take. Means that, yeah, they don't have to think twice. You know, you all actually we fight for you all to be in second phase of the vaccination for COVID-19. So you all gonna be the CKD patient will be in the second phase of COVID-19 vaccination. So should take. You know.
Yeah, thank you. For Richard Kalungi, Dr. Richard Kalungi from Uganda, Dr. Sunita said, yes, PD is preferred to HD because most countries like Hong Kong, it's almost 85 to 90% is peritoneal dialysis, and they're doing very well, actually. Am I right, Sunita?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. As pediatric nephrologists, we prefer peritoneal dialysis because it doesn't affect the children's daily activity, and they can do it at home with more flexibility. Whereas hemodialysis, you have to come to the hospital or a center. It disrupts the entire family, actually.
Dr. Siva, can I make a comment here? Yeah. Just a comment, because I think President Siva made a very important what we call that statement just now to say that where to get a good information, reliable information. So I think it's really important if you have friends, you have contact, you know, in Malaysia nowadays, you can get reliable information regarding chronic kidney disease from My Buah Pinggang. So
yes, yeah.
I asked them to go to My Buah Pinggang. They will talk about taking care of diabetes, whether to take vaccine or not, whether you can take spirulina jadi gamat, misalnya kucing gamarak, habatus sauda. That's all they will put inside there. So one is My Buah Pinggang, and number two is your dialysis journey. Your dialysis journey also is a reliable source of information for patient. I think, yeah.
Okay, one last question from Datuk Mustafa. Datuk Mustafa is a very senior Rotarian. Datuk Mustafa, educationist, our past district governor. He asked, why was the last 10 years has been a large increase in chronic kidney disease? What is the reason behind this, actually? Prof. Halim.
Because of Datuk and everybody, because of we know that the main cause of chronic kidney disease is diabetes, and we see the number of patients being diagnosed with diabetes. Now the rate is 17.5%, and that one also we know that it will increase. And because of this risk factor of chronic kidney disease, the prevalence of the risk factor of chronic kidney disease is increasing. That's why we see more and more patients develop chronic kidney disease. So if, let's say, we have to concentrate on something, because we cannot concentrate on so many things, you know, we have to have a program to concentrate on something, we should put all our money on diabetes. We should put all our money how to treat diabetes and treat diabetes to prevent them from developing chronic kidney disease. And there are some drugs, That's why we hope that we can use this drug in diabetic kidney disease. And this drug from the study showed that it reduces by 30%. So there's a lot. So we should actually use this drug in diabetic kidney disease. So diabetes is coming up, obesity is coming up, hypertension is coming up. That's why the prevalence of chronic kidney disease is high.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Halim. I think time is catching up with us. I would like to thank, thank you very much for the excellent talk by all the 5 speakers have inspired us. Now I would like to invite one of our past district governor, Dr. Jimmy Lim. Dr. Jimmy Lim, along with our IPDG Leo, are the Arch Clump Society members of Rotary Club. And Dr. Jimmy, I would like to invite you, and you can say in your own words, word of thanks to all our speakers.
Thank you, Dr. Shalva. I hope everybody can hear me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so honored to be invited to say a word of thanks to all the participants in this seminar. Congratulations to President Siva of Rotary Club of Malawati, Dr. Selva, for organizing this seminar. You can never, I can tell you, get so much, so many doctors, I get so much knowledge in so little time. It's incredible. Now, I'm a kidney transplant patient, having done the operation in March 2018. And it is exactly 4 years to this week for me, for my new kidney. And what an extreme happy birthday, at least for my new life. Now, if you want to know what I went through in my journey from a patient to a transplant, please go in to the very interesting story that I've written in my blogspot called Jimmy Lim Tao Che Blogspot. I just sent that to you in the chat room. Now, I was financially fully backed in this ordeal by my former boss, Tan Sri Asman Hashim of the Arab Bank, and my family. But even then, the financial strain was there. So can you imagine the strain on the other 51,000 patients that are in Malaysia? It's not easy. Now, after my operation, I decided with my good friend, Dr. Yap Chong Mui, President Yap Fat Lam, and his club called Rotary Club of Bukit Angkasa. All of them are in the chat group now. Maybe to start a Rotary NGO to monitor and promote and do outwards, right, mobile early warning system to catch these people at this early warning system. Funding was not a problem. It's still not a problem to us. But we couldn't even get any person involved in kidney to spend more than 10 minutes to us. And you can't start an NGO if you don't have the kind of statistics which Dr. Sunita gave out today and Dr. Iqbal. And I'm going to treasure all this. And now that I know there's a Sunway NKF center, it's even a better start. Now, a project that was actually started 4 years back may see a sudden rejuvenation with this initiative from Rotary Club of Malawati. Now, I've given you my email and contact, and to those who are interested to participate at any level, we will be happy to be in contact with you. Now, today we are so lucky again to have Dr. Sunita, Professor Dr. Halim, Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, and Dr. Thiru, and of course also President Siva, to speak to us. Each of these speakers sounds so knowledgeable, and they were armed with so much statistics. What makes us also spellbound, of course, commitment and the enthusiasm each of these speakers had. Now, as a transplant kidney patient, our kidney also have a shelf life. And there are so many exposures that a transplant patient, right, like me, go through. It's not what they call a pay and go live episode. So we need each other and to talk to the various people involved in this field regularly. Ladies and gentlemen, as a former hemodialysis patient, I've never believed much in dialysis because a lot of patients eventually become vegetables, only the exception of President Siva. And so much productivity is lost. And to hear that a lot of young people are involved, it makes us more desperate because Malaysia needs everybody. And it makes us wonder whether the money spent will be better done if we do early warning system. And therefore, prevention is better than cure, or early prevention is better. So lastly, it remains for me to acknowledge the presence of so many Rotarians from all over Asia, or especially India, Bangladesh, Philippines, Uganda. East Malaysia, and our own District 3300. Welcome, past District Governor Mustafa Ma, PDG Leslie, PDG Leo, incoming District Governor Brimdi, DG Krishnan, DGN Shiva. Look at that interest. And so many of you are my very important Rotarians and friends, and they're all listed in the 60 participants in that participants list. And so with this, I'd like to hand the session back to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Jimmy. Dr. Burnett, can we put on the certificate of appreciation for our
Yes.
people?
This is a certificate of appreciation to Dr. Sunita Bhavanandan, and we will email to you, Professor Dr. Halim, Dr. Muhammad Iqbal,
Thank you.
and Dr. Thiru Venturan. Thank you. With that, I would like to conclude the webinar, and we will stay back. If anyone else have questions, if the speakers willing to stay back and chat for a while, we welcome actually. Prof. Halim, I would like to, Dr. Jimmy spoke to me just now before the thing started. This is what we are saying with the early warning system, whereby we want to test earlier or treat, identify patients with chronic kidney disease earlier. That is why, as another NGO, we like to start on where we can help. Dr. Jimmy, would you like to elaborate now with Prof. Halim?
That's beautiful initiative, you know. I think, yeah.
When you say My Sejahtera, we were thinking of same thing like that actually.
Yeah. It's to fight a pandemic. Everybody should chip in. Yeah.
Yasmin, so anything else, Dr. Jimmy? Any questions for the speakers? Now we are available. You can unmute yourself and speak to the speakers themselves. Dr. Iqbal, Dr. Sunita, Dr. Thiru, and Prof. Halim.
Myself from India, Navjyoti Bolla Pragada from RC Vishrambag Sangli. I am very much impressed with this session, and really you inspired me a lot, all the speakers, and I really start working on this, and I will pledge that I will donate my organs.
Thank you, Navjyoti. Anybody else? Yes, Sounder.
Good afternoon, doctors and everyone. I'm Soundarajan from RC Malawati. I think I already posted a question.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't answer that actually. Yeah, you can answer. You can ask.
Yeah, the question is, we've been talking. It's all wonderful explanation, everything, but as the Prof. Halim says, prevention. So it's always prevention better than cure. Why? Is there any efforts made or arranged by the government in order for the young generation, especially college, school children, to understand about the diabetes and the seriousness of it? Is there any arrangements been made? That's one. Number two, Prof. Halim's presentation, one of the slides he showed, I think I couldn't read it properly, but I think it's Japan, Singapore stands, I think 1 and 4th, and Malaysia number 10. But the bigger populous countries like China, India doesn't come into the picture. So what is the reason? Is it because of eating habits and food problems and all that? Is there anything we can go about educating the younger generation? Thanks. It's such a long question. Sorry about it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the questions. And I think the first question is whether government, especially Minister of Health, doing something. But I think Dr. Sunita can help me. But they are doing a lot of things. They have even NCD department where actually looking at the non-communicable disease like diabetes, hypertension. and chronic kidney disease, and try to inform the public, of the side effect of this disease, diabetes and things like that. For Malaysian Society of Nephrology, what we are doing now is that we want to tackle two parts of population. One is that we want to tackle the public, but by mybuahpinggang.com, and number two is that we want to tackle the general practitioner and also family medicine physician. So we are doing something, trying to outreach to the general practitioner and also the family medicine specialists, try to help them in treating patients with early chronic kidney disease. So, and I'm quite sure the government is doing something, especially in diabetes. People are worried about diabetes now. There are many things that they are doing. And number two, the question is that China and the one that I showed, the number of per capita is higher in this country, but of course, China's and all over the world are having this a problem of end-stage kidney disease, and mainly the cause is still diabetes. Mainly the cause is still diabetes.
Thank you, Prof. Halim. Thank you. Now I'm not moderating anymore. Anyone can ask the questions, and even Dr. Sunita or Dr. Prof. Halim want to share something, will be good actually. Yeah, I think it was an excellent session. Everyone agreed. Yes, Dr. Jimmy.
Yeah, Dr. Selva, you asked me just now to outline a little bit about the NGO we wanted to start.
Yes.
And then also I was cut off. So now I'm back.
Yep.
Of course, the NGO is, most countries have actually two main NGOs. They would have one like the National Kidney Foundation and so on, which is totally committed to including hemodialysis and also, doing dialysis. The other one is usually a little bit lighter, and this is what we think we're capable of doing, and that is the early warning systems. And that exists everywhere, except Malaysia. We haven't got anything yet. Sunway, of course, is the first to start it. Sunway restricts their activities with NKF to certain areas, but we are thinking of actually going all over Malaysia through our Rotary connection. And it starts off by having education, which I think is very easy to do. And but the second one here is actually some interim tests. And I think here we are not doctors and we might get into trouble. We would actually do the blood pressure and then sugar. And the most important is actually if we can have an early measurement of their creatinine. If we can go further, we'll go further. But I think we'll stop there because you can then detect from the creatinine readings whether they are almost in stage 1, 2, or 3. Now, we've been looking for machines. Nowadays, even X-ray machines are mobile. So why can't a blood machine to measure creatinine be mobile? And I believe there's a lot of it being in existence because I saw one or two in doctors' clinic. In fact, I used that. Doctor in Jalan Ampang actually had this machine that would instantly give me my creatinine reading. Of course, it might not be that accurate, but it's an indicator. So these are the machines that we have been exploring. And if any of the doctors can help us, then we can almost start. But we also need to check the legal part because we cannot be accused of practicing even studio medicine. So this is what we are trying to do. And then we will go around training the 85 Rotary clubs or the ones even in 33010 if they want to help join with us. And we have very big center then, and this is where we want to go. And that's briefly what we want to do. Thank you.
If I may suggest, I think probably we need to sit down and talk to, with the permission from the president of MSN also, maybe we should have a dialogue first before we start. What do you think, Prof. Halim and Dr. Sunita? I know we have a CKD program for health personnel. We teach our young doctors how to identify CKD, and we have this program into place actually. I think what Dr. Lim, Dr. Jimmy suggesting is for the public to know much more earlier. Is there a venue for that, Dr. Sunita, Dr. Halim?
It's the only way out, you know.
Yes,
That is
true.
the
That's the
only way
only
out.
way. The public should take the
Yeah.
responsibility.
We have
So-
to be like Singaporean, you know. Singaporean, they are in charge of their diseases. They
Yes.
come and they know what disease. So it's gonna be back to public. We're gonna use like COVID-19 pandemic lah.
Yeah.
You're gonna be the frontliner. So the public is gonna be the frontliner for CKD. And I actually hope that there will be a follow-up meeting between us, Dr. Silva, and
I can arrange a meeting or something like that on some sort with
Yeah.
MSN and our committee in Rotary. I would like
I would
Dr.
love
Jimmy.
to.
Yeah.
With your permission, I would like to be in the committee. We should start off something.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. Dr. Yap also is there, and I'll show you some of the machines that we got for
Yes.
measuring creatinine.
Betul.
from COVID.
Ada. In research also we do that. You know, they come. They do that. And we're not going to talk about dialysis. Dialysis is important. Transplantation is important. But I'm going to talk about
detection
and prevention.
Yes.
Yeah, very important. And then, maybe you can have more people in productivity, you see.
Yeah.
Dr. Sunita, any comments?
Yes, absolutely. I'm actually thrilled to hear that Rotary is so enthusiastic, because every little effort, everybody's effort matters. It's as Prof. Halim says, it really is an epidemic that is brewing here in terms of the kidney disease, and we have still time to do something about it.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Good. I think this is a very successful
meeting.
Beautiful.
1 hour something, yeah. If anyone else has no questions, I would like to again record my thanks to a few people who helped me to organize this webinar. My president, President Siva Kumar, my very able, our club able secretary, Rotarian Raja Yasmin, who did all these things, and not forgetting our surgeon from the north, Bandar Sungai Petani, Dr. Bernard, who hosted the Zoom meeting. Of course, all our esteemed speakers, Dr. Sunita, Prof. Halim, Dr. Iqbal, Dr. Tiru, and Rotarian Siva, along with Dr. Jimmy, who came when I invited him to the vote of thanks, and also of all the Rotarians who came from all over the Asian, Malaysia, East Malaysia, a few PDGs from Sabah, Sarawak, Brunei, I know from Bangladesh, India, Uganda. I was told Uganda doesn't have a transplant program at all, actually, and there's no PD also. So with that, thank you, everyone. Without you, this won't be a success. Thank you very much. I'll see you again. Bye.
Next week.